Centaur, gather your men and escort the Dusk Elders into the enemy capital. The world may say that the sun has set upon the Ermoran Empire. Well, the sun shall set for the entire world as Ermor reconquers what is rightfully ours. Go in the name of the Emperor of Bones. Conquer the world. Ready the legions and march forth. Welcome in, builders. This week we're taking a look at Ermor, Ashen Empire. Now, first off, I know that for some, perhaps, the thought of undead skeletal legions marching upon the world to reconquer what was once theirs might be a little too much. But I want to remind you, there's a skeleton in each of us. Middle-Age Ermor is a really cool nation. Has a reputation of being super duper strong, perhaps more so than is actually deserved. I think where that stems from is fighting against Ermor is fighting against inevitability. It is a unrewarding battle that you will have a hollow victory at best, even if you are successful. So in many games, people resent Ermor because even after a hard-fought battle, there's not a lot of rewards to be had because they have wiped out and decimated the lands that they once had. And depending on your use of death gems, maybe you don't even get particularly good gems out of doing it. In addition to that, because they're doing all the pop kill, they make it very, very hard for you to actually march into their lands, as not only will you not be able to drop PD behind you, you're going to have a lot of problems with supply on the way in. So a rough time to be had for the enemies of Ermor. Let's check out what Ermor is all about. Ermor was once a great empire that had conquered most of the known world. The realm crumbled as the great mages of the empire studied dark magic under sorrowmancers of Satis. Unaware of the dangers of dark sorcery, priests performed unholy rites in the capital city of Eldergate. But there were voices who demanded the foul practices stop. Thargs and thaumaturges foresaw the cataclysm and advised generals, governors, and consuls to revolt. When the apostate emperor marched on Ermor itself, the augurs and bishops of the empire were forced to act in concert. In one cataclysmic event, death was let loose on the empire. Death was let loose, and the empire was shattered. The cataclysm attracted the attention from an earlier god, a dark and hungry god. The vast powers of this awakening god erased the boundaries between the land of the living and the land of the dead. Ermor is now a cursed land of ashes and darkness where nothing grows. The bones of the long-dead inhabitants reassemble to form legions of undead under the leadership of the cursed priests of the old Ermoran faith. Undead legions march forth to reconquer a world once theirs. The Ermoran dominion reanimates dead without the aid of unholy priests. It also destroys the land, turning crops and forests into ashes and people and livestock to bones. The pretender gods of Ermor will also be able to sense where any corpses are in the province under his dominion. So this is a dark, dark land. This is what happens when you start messing with life and death and you don't actually understand what you are doing. It's also a tale of desperation and rebellion. The empire was sundered, and the people who realized that this was a bad plan tried to stop it and ultimately failed. However, some of them, of course, move on as successor nations. We have Celeria, we have Pythion. Lots of other nations are offshoots from distant lands that were once conquered by Ermor. A very, very intricately tied in nation to the lore of the world of dominions. Let's check in on their national features. As a race, we are undead. We have no non-undead anything. Thus, we do not need supplies. We can march into the water. We are unbreakable and can walk all day and night. We do not recruit regular armies, but instead we summon or reanimate undead. For our military, our good units are undead legionaries, wailing ladies, unholy knights, and hordes of newly dead. For magic, we are very good in death, and we have just a little bit of fire, astral, and some other elements. For priests, we are very powerful. We have to summon in all of our priests. However, we have the option between a priest level 1, 2, 3. So a good smattering there that have various different uses. Because we are undead and we are priests, all of our priests are able to reanimate the dead. For our Dominion reanimates the dead, and it also kills off population. And this is a very strong kill. So oftentimes when we talk about pop kill, we're talking about death scales or we're talking about extreme temperatures. Just having a candle of Ermoran Dominion kills off your population. Even if you were to try to go growth, you are not even hardly going to slow it down. It's I believe, percentage based on number of candles, and it's pretty dang high. I believe it's the highest in the game, maybe tied with a late age nation that springs from Ermor. Finally, in our Dominion, we can sense corpses. A few nations have this ability. All it means is we can see the amount of unburied corpses, which relates to the amount of people who died in combat and population that has died recently. If you do nothing, this will slowly decay away back to 0. However, you could use this for various reanimations or spells like Raven Feast, for example. For scales and blesses, we have a death limit of +2, and we have a misfortune limit of +1. Pretty extreme scales there. Building-wise, we build standard forts. We start with a fortified city, that is the Elder Gate, and our temples produce death gems. That last bit is very important for us because most of our quote-unquote economy is really death gems, and getting extra death gems is super duper important for us, so at least we can guarantee that we get 1 per temple that we build. As you can see down here, we have nothing we can recruit. We have to summon or free spawn in everything. For our site, we have 1. We have the Unholy Sepulchre. This gives us an income of 9 death gems per turn and nothing else. I believe this is the highest single income for a starting nation, like starting sites in a nation. If you know of one that gets more than 9 gems, let me know, but very, very high here. Freespawn and Sacreds. As mentioned, Ermor does not actually have anything that we can recruit. We rely on both our Dominion reanimating things along with reanimator priests and or summoning to bolster our troops. And this ranges from utter garbage to pretty good units. Let's take a look here. Okay, this is going to be a little hard to organize, but we'll do the best we can here. So this, we use the nation mod to view things, and this one has a couple little things that are not correct, so hopefully I can catch them as we're going through here. So the very basic free spawn that we will get is Soulless. These are the regular junky Soulless that we are used to. Of note here, they have very little attack. They have 4 attack with 10 blunt damage. Very, very useless in combat. These are mainly used as chaff, just to stand in front and hopefully distract people, while hopefully your better units and or mages are doing some actual work. Trait-wise, like mini undead, we are poor amphibians, we have pierce resistance, cold resistance, poison resistance, we're undead, we're inanimate, we don't eat, we're mindless, we have never heals, and we are undisciplined. Of note for Soulless, we have 15 HP, so you might be able to take a hit. We have no protection though. We have very bad magic resistance, so we're going to be easy to banish. We have morale 50, which essentially means we're unbreakable. Our strength is 12, but we are mindless. So we actually have a siege strength of 1.4, which is not bad, but a siege defense of only 0.1. A normal human has a 0.5 siege defense and a 1 siege strength, for reference. These guys are not terrible for just using like a zombie horde to tear down the walls of a castle, but beyond that, I don't see a ton of use other than just extra chaff out front. But free is free. Next up, this is one that's not on here. Let's back out a little bit. We also get ghouls. I believe the ghouls stop spawning when the pop is all dead. However, while the pop is going, as you can see in the game behind here, we have just tons and tons of different undead and ghouls. Some of these have been moved around. Like over here, if we get the souls out of the way, ghouls. So these ghouls are free spawned in. They are the same ghouls as you could get by doing the ability create ghouls. and that is an ability that we can do. In most nations, this is pretty garbage because it kills off your population to make ghouls, but we're going to kill off our population anyways, and these are free even if we don't want to do that. A ghoul is all right. They're all right. We have 15 HP, 11 strength, a good map move of 20, should be noted. A lot of these other ones, 16 here, are going to be very slow. So ghouls actually can kick up their heels and get moving a little bit. Size 3, so we'll get 3 of them in a square. We have no protection naturally, but we don't have anything that stops us from getting buffed, possibly. 7 magic resistance, not very great. We are going to be easy to banish. 18 morale, we are not mindless or fearless, so we actually can be routed, although 18 is pretty good. We have strength of 11, but note this time, 1.2 siege strength and 0.6 siege defense. Ghouls are very, very good at holding up fort walls, so a nice 100, 200, 500 ghouls inside a good fort will make them very, very hard to siege down. Meanwhile, the whole time, even if there is population left in the province, it's dwindling, which means supplies are dwindling. So if your enemy does not have an army that doesn't need supplies or a good supply of supply items, they're going to really feel that. They're going to not be too happy. Otherwise, we have 10 attack skill, 10 defense, so they're not absolute garbage in combat. Trait-wise, we have poison resistance, we're undead, we have dark vision, and we have corpse eater. This is a pretty rare ability. We can eat up to 2 corpses per month if they're available. Each corpse will give us an extra HP point. We can raise our extra HP points up by 6, and that will decay away at a rate of 1 per every other month. So if you check this guy, he starts at 10 HP and is actually eaten up to 16. So that's kind of nice. I mean, that's maybe an extra hit. However, once all of your population has died, at least within your own lands, you won't have any extra corpses for them to eat. Attack-wise, they have a poison claw, 10 attack, 11 slashing damage, and it does have paralyzing poison. This is okay. A nice swarm of these guys hitting somebody, even if they're not damaging them too much, just a single one will take them halfway to falling asleep, and that'll give them some combat penalties, and then hopefully you can just keep that stacking and stacking and stacking. So, better than Soulless to be sure. These actually could do something. And I do feel like they are pretty vital for keeping your fort safe if somebody is trying to siege you down. Jumping back into our mod. Next up, we have several different varieties of Ermoran Long Dead. We'll start here. The Long Dead Velite. Let's actually view these via here. So we have this guy right here. Long Dead Velite is our lightest troop. 5 HP, pretty dang weak. Strength 10, note mindless, so we only have the 0.1 siege defense. Again, why ghouls are so important for us. Good map move, we are undead, so we can just march on. No protection, 11 attack, 14 defense skill. We're up to 9 magic resistance, so we actually have a shot about resisting. Because we're mindless, we also have 50 morale, and a combat speed of 9. Trait-wise, we have the standard suite of mindless undead troops, notable for having Spirit Sight here. These troops have a length 3 spear, 11 attack with 13 piercing damage, and they have a couple javelins that they can toss. This one particularly only has a Rotten Tower shield, no armor whatsoever. These would be good if you're getting a lot of incoming enemy crossbows or archer fire. Maybe have these guys stand out front, try to throw their javelins before they get killed. Mainly using these as fodder. Depending on the matchup, maybe instead you move them behind the front line and just let them throw their javelins and then fill in for people as they get killed. So I would say this is the weakest of our specialty Long Dead. Next up, we have Long Dead Legionnaire from Ermor. This is essentially the same guy, however, he has put on armor. We have a rusty ringmail hauberk, we have a legionary helmet, and we still have our Rotten Tower shield. So this is actually not too bad. We have 19 on the head, 8 on the body, and our shield does 12 with good parry. So this is going to be your probably most common frontline troop. They have the length 3 spear, so they can get some repels. They're all right. Next up, we have the Long Dead Principe from Ermor. Again, same guy that we've been looking at. same armor that we just put on, but we have traded out our length 3 spear for a short sword. Notable for being attack 13 and doing slashing and piercing damage. I would say generally these are a step up unless they're going to get repelled. Can be pretty nice. They're a bit more killy. They have a bit better attack. 13 is pretty respectable, actually. These are pretty good. Long Dead Triarii from Ermor. Again, same guy, same armor. However, we have switched over to the Ermoran Long Spear, a length 4 weapon, and we are pretty good with it, with attack 12 with 13 piercing damage. These guys are a bit rarer. This stack right here is what I've gotten the entire game. I have not marched out with any of them. And I've marched out several legions of these types. So I like to build these up as kind of a elite force, like, you know, that big cataclysmic battle you tend to have with another army, and whoever wins that probably ends up winning the war. That's where I would want to apply these. Alternatively, maybe you just need these guys to repel a certain type of enemy, and that would be really valuable. So that'd be another spot where I would probably use those. Beyond those, we can also get Long Dead Horsemen. I have not actually seen any of these in my testing. These are the same ones I believe that you summon in with Summon Long Dead Horsemen from Enchantment, which is a pretty good unit. I actually like those quite a bit. We have a Light Lance, which is an actual lance, so we get that first strike bonus. We have a Skeletal Steed that has a hoof attack with 11 attack, 15 damage. And we're mindless, so we don't have to worry about morale. These are pretty good. You lose the rider, the horse will keep fighting. And conversely, if you lose the horse, the fighter will keep fighting. For some reason, he actually has an iron cap that's not rusted. That's something vaguely interesting. Next up, we'll do this guy. Knight of the Unholy Sepulchre. This is our Freespawn Sacred. We don't get an absolute ton of them, but they're not super duper rare either. You get a handful of these. Enough that I do think you should consider them when making your Bless. He has an actual lance, not even a light one. This is a big boy lance. This hurts a lot on that initial hit. Once you've used that up, however, you switch to a broadsword. For him himself, the rider only has 6 HP. That's a little unfortunate. And combine that with only 13 magic resist, being banished is a distinct chance for these guys. Maybe a place where you'd look to buff those two things. Beyond that, good attack skill, good defense skill, good combat speed. For an undead, 13 magic resistance is pretty good, and we are mindless, so we're not going to run away or anything. I like these guys quite a bit. Protection-wise, we have 21 on the head and 16 on the body, and our horse is wearing Rusty Cataphract Barding, which is pretty darn good. It still gives us 19 on the head and 11 on the body. Perfectly fine for a horse. In addition, because we're a skeleton horse, we do have Pierce Resistant, which will help us against like spears or arrow hits. Can be pretty nice there. And it is sacred, so you will get your blessing on your horse also. Overall, pretty good unit. It really helps to have something that you can try to flank rear or just get onto the flanks with, as our skeletal legions are not the best thing ever. Beyond those, we also can spawn in semi-rarely Mound Kings and Mound Kings that are mounted. These are leaders. This guy here has 100 undead leadership. He has a broadsword, he has a shield, bronze armor. Okay. And the Mound King, which is the mounted version of him with the light lance. Overall, it's nice to get some free leadership. You probably won't, at least in my experience, get enough of them, so you'll have to supplement that by summoning in something else to help you move undead around. Beyond those, we also have regular long dead. That is like these boyos here. Let me space out a couple different varieties. As you can see, there's a lot of different types. So I'm not going to go through these one by one. These are standard long dead. So here's a guy with a broadsword. Here's a guy with a broadsword, but he actually has armor on. Here is a guy with a spear with some armor on, broadsword, and a hauberk, rusty hauberk. So these are the standard long dead you would get from using the enchant spell or by resurrecting with unholy priests. Overall, these are not as good as our legionary troops. 12 attack is respectable, I suppose, 11 attack, but less armor on them, less shielding to be had. They're not the best. However, I like to take these guys and just A, bolster my numbers, and B, put these guys out front as the first wave. Let them crash into these and Soulless and maybe ghouls and get wounded, lose some morale maybe, send all their big spells into there, start banishing those, and then wave 2 comes in with our better troops, and we'll have a little less casualties on those, hopefully. Yeah, overall, a pretty good mix. Next up, these are a sacred that we can summon in, both via our undead priests are able to do that, but also we have a national spell, the Lictor from Ermor. This is our second sacred. These are pretty solid. 20 HP, 16 strength, and we do have good siege defense because we're not mindless. 12 attack, 10 defense. Map move is 17. We have 16 protection on our body, but we do not have a helmet on, unfortunately. 13 magic resist, and we do have morale, but it is at 19, so pretty good. Combat speed is very slow at 8. We are sacred, we have cold resist, we have poison resist, we are undead, we don't eat, we have a chill aura 3. That stacks up quite large when you have a good group of them, and we have spirit sight. For a weapon, we wield a length 2 battle axe. We are pretty good with it. 13 attack, 29 slashing damage. Very, very nice here. The one problem, we don't have anything that has magic weapons, and that makes me a little bit nervous, but pretty good weapon otherwise. They would like to have something that makes them a little more survivable, and maybe magic weapon. In my testing, I did have a couple situations where I was like, oh man, I really wish I had some magic weapons. That could be a bit of a pain. And doubly so when you're trying to fight something that's, let's say, high defense and ethereal, and yeah, they're just really hard for long dead to try to kill that. These guys aren't bad, but we're only going to have 3 attacks per square, so our attack density is very, very low. Additionally, we don't have a shield, we don't have a helmet, so arrow fire is actually pretty good against them. Note they're not skeletal, I guess, they're like zombie lictors, so they don't have the piercing resistance. So another little bit of a weakness there. Overall, though, very usable sacred and actually pretty massable. We have a item that can help us bring them in. We have several different levels of spell to summon them in. These are pretty good. You definitely should, again, consider your bless for them. In addition, we can summon in Wailing Ladies. This is a troop, so I'm going to cover it here, even though this is technically coming from a national spell. These are pretty nice. This is a third sacred. Their problem is 0 protection. They are ethereal, so you do have that, but it makes me very nervous. These are a bit pricey, so losing these would really suck. This would definitely be an area where a defensive bless, I feel, would be pretty good. They have spirit form, so they're hard to buff, but they are sacred, so we could give them, say, invulnerability from Stygian Skin. That would work pretty well for them. They are notable for having fear and a chill aura, being ethereal and stealthy, and they have spirit sight. Their attack is also super duper good. It's a length 5 scream, I guess. It's called Wail, and it has attack 20. The damage is 999, magic resistance negates, area of effect 1. So, and so you get hit with this as an extra effect of fear. So I think what happens is if you magic resistance negate the damage, I think you also get the fear, and the fear is area of effect 5. So I suppose the plan would be get a couple of these and just mix them in. Do note though, this isn't a ranged attack. It is a melee attack, even though it has an AoE of 5. So they do have to somehow make it to the front to get it off, but 10 fear themselves and then stacking with a fear attack, pretty spooky if you can somehow get this off. And 20 HP in ethereal is enough to take a couple attacks. Again, 0 protection and being kind of pricey do make me a little bit nervous there. Heroes, Commanders, and Prophet. We have several different versions here. Let's start with our heroes. We have the Wraith King. This guy's a badass. He has 3 death. He's a priest level 2. He's sacred. He's an actual amphibian, not poor amphibian. He has a fear aura. He has cold resistance 25, poison resistance 25, undead, doesn't eat. He has immortality. So if you kill him, he's just coming right back in about 3 months. He has a chill aura. He's ethereal, spirit form, spirit sight. He has death curse, so whoever kills him will be cursed. He has Dominion Monster Summoner. I believe he summons in the long dead horses. I didn't get him in any of my test games, so correct me if I'm wrong there. And he has Skill Rider. Very much noted, 18 protection, 21 on the head, combined with Ethereal. He is much, much tougher than some of the other things we were looking at. His Flayed Horse, however, does not have any armor, unfortunately. With the rules the way they work now, I believe if you lost the horse, he should still be able to remount. I don't think there's anything that would prevent that. And the horse is also ethereal, so pretty good there. I do think this guy is good enough. I would consider maybe thugging him out if you got him. If you could give it the horse just a piece of barding, just anything combined with ethereal and 30 HP would help him quite a bit. He comes in with a Baneblade, but I believe Baneblades are one-handed, so he could still use a shield. A shield would definitely help him out. A fear helmet to stack with his own fear would be a possibility. He is really, really good. A great hero. Very cool, very flavorful, and actually useful. Doubly so because of immortality. I love him. Next up, we have the Forgotten King. He's a very good undead leader, and he's a priest level 3 sacred. Other than that, he has pretty standard stuff. A great leader if you get him. We have the Arch Censor. He is a sacred unit that has fear, cold resist, poison resist, is undead, has the chill aura, has the spirit sight. Very much like what everyone else we've been looking at. He does have the Implementor Axe, which is a battle axe that is magical, so appreciated there. Yeah, he's fine. He's usable. And we also have a special Dusk Elder. This is a Fire 2, Astral 3, Death 4 mage. Very good. He has some other stuff, but I wouldn't thug him out. I would definitely use him for his magic since he doesn't have immortality. Do remember that you can't twice-born undead, so not bringing him back via that. Pretty good mage. He has essentially the best fire and astral that we can get, and I guess actually and best death. So very nice mage if you get him. Definitely usable. Next, we have to summon in all these things. When we get to magic spells, we'll look at the spells. This is just such a weird nation. I'm going to cover the units that we can summon here. So first up, let's look at the Spectator. This is our basic mage. We do start with one of these. He is a Death 2. As a summon, we have no upkeep. None of our stuff has gold upkeep. He does 9 research. Now, let me double check that because I am running magic skills. Yes, 9 research. I want to make sure that screen was not affecting him. 9 research, so not terrible, but he does cost a lot of death gems to bring in. As a combat mage, Death 2's okay. You can do some deathy stuff with that. You could Skelly spam, although ironically enough, Skelly spam's kind of the worst thing that we can do because we already have tons of long dead. So what you want to be doing is actually other death things. Fear type spells, shadow type spells, those type of things. Pretty decent. Next, we have a Dusk Elder. This is our better mage. He comes in with Fire 1, Astral 1, Death 3, and he gets a random of 110% chance, Fire, Air, Water, Earth, Astral, Death. So quite a wide spread. These guys cost, I want to say 20 death gems. So very, very pricey. That's over 2 turns of our starting income. However, no upkeep and decent randoms. And you don't need randoms. Even if you got nothing, you still have Death 3 and you do have the Death Fire crosspath, which is kind of useful. So very nice mage. This would be my preference to do some site searching with, especially as you get different varieties of them to get out there. Gems are very important for us because we don't have any gold recruit things. So we need to be summoning in stuff. So getting some gem variety, not only for that, but also for crafting. This guy can help with both. Pretty good mage either way. Next up, let's look at Acolyte of the Elder Gate. This is our priest level 1. He is priest, sacred. He has a standard slew of undead things, and he has Reanimator Priest. Overall, not too much to write home about. I suppose you could compliment his magic resistance at 15. He can lead undead, 120 of them, although not well. They'll have minus morale if they are not mindless. But pretty good. I suppose he's a ghoul since he has a poison claw, I guess. He's usable. Next up, we have the Bishop of the Elder Gate. Same thing, but we're now up to priest level 2, and we lead more undead. And we are a Reanimator Priest. Third up, we have the Archbishop of the Elder Gate. Priest level 3, same slew. Now, where these guys are differentiated is we have some national spells that are priest spells, and so that will differentiate which one of those they can use. In addition, because we are Reanimator Priests, we have different things we can reanimate. So, Reanimate Command, we can reanimate ghouls. This means we kill off population to make ghouls. We can reanimate Soulless. This uses the unburied corpses in the province and brings them back as soulless. We can reanimate long dead warriors. This is just, you can just do this forever. It doesn't require anything. We can reanimate long dead horsemen. So there's your source of those. This is not the sacred. And we can reanimate lictors, our sacred unit. So a holy level 3 can get 1, and a holy level 4 can do 2. Pretty nice. However, we also have a summoning spell for lictors. I'm not 100% certain I like these guys. I think for them, I would have these guys marching with my armies more than raising dead. Maybe if you make yourself a holy 4 guy, maybe 2 lictors is worth his time. We have an item that increases lictor summons. It does not seem to affect reanimation, though. It only affects the summon spell. In this game, I forgot at the time when I was doing my other test game to check the Amulet of the Dead if it affects lictors. I have a feeling the answer is no, that it's going to do long dead stuff. If it does affect lictors, then that would change the calculus, because I believe it's a +2. So a normal holy level 3, which we can just summon with gems, remember, could do 3 lictors each. In that case, maybe I'd be more interested. I think that's everybody from there. This is one of the spots where the mod does not show it. We also have Censors. These are, again, summoned in via death gems. This is the lictor leaders, essentially. They use the same battle axe. They're a bit better with it. They're a bit stronger. They have the same armor. Same things here, trait-wise. They're all right. 150 leadership's pretty good. They're not great leaders, though. So if you have morale, you're going to have a -1 on it. Magic Resist 14 is pretty good. 20 morale is pretty good. You probably will end up needing to summon at least a few of these to help move things around. I think it's kind of between them and Long Dead Horsemen. Where's my boy? The normal enchant 2 guy that you can summon in to lead Long Dead Horses. I do think that it is probably worth using here. They're dirt cheap. Here he is. They're dirt cheap. They have 125 leadership. They're actually better leaders for people who are not mindless because they don't have a penalty on them. These guys are totally usable. I summoned in 1 this game so far, but as you can see, my expansion's been, it's okay. We're towards the end of year 2, essentially. Just something to consider there. And you will have piles and piles of undead. Let's go ahead and actually touch bases here on that. So our Dominion summons in undead in a spot that doesn't have any infrastructure. Outside of your Dominion, nothing. Inside of your Dominion, this is what spawned in. So some long dead, some ghouls, some soulless, a smattering of just kind of junk. If you are at a fort, let's see what I haven't moved anybody away from recently. This. So again, I'm getting ghouls and soulless. I'm getting a little bit of long dead, but not very many. Mostly I'm getting the Ermoran long dead, and that's what you want. I don't know how long these guys have been building up here, but as you can see, we have a few Knights of the Unholy Sepulchre, more long dead. We have a mix of the different types. So this is just from a fort level 1. To my knowledge and my attesting agrees, higher level forts, aka like Ermor itself here, does not change that equation. It's just, do you have a fort of some level or no? In addition, you do require the temple to be able to spawn in your knights. So like over here, no temple, even though I do have a fort that came up recently, no knights. So for Ermor, because we're going to kill off all the population, so you can see here, Ermor is almost done, we are not going to be getting money or resources. Even if we got resources, we have nothing to recruit or build. So in this case, you're going to want to have like forts everywhere. Now, originally at the beginning, I probably would circle my cap with forts and temples. Remember, we get a death gem out of every temple. Pretty darn important there. But this also starts getting more of our Ermoran spawns in, rather than junky long dead and ghouls and soulless. Now, those have their places, but the Ermoran long dead are what we really want. In addition to that strategy, you also probably want to try to get out ahead of your own dominion and build some palisades out there. So like over here, I'm not going to kill off this pop until my dominion catches up. So I can get some time with this 256 income, because we still use money to build forts and temples and labs. We need to have some conquering to get money. As you can see, this is like the fresh frontier I've been conquering. There's still some troops out here, but given time, they will all die off. So we want to constantly be getting ahead of our dominion. I do believe that dominion strength influences the amount of spawns that you are getting. So in this game, I started with pretty low dominion just based on how I built the god, but higher candles will mean more long dead. So I think for me, starting kind of small on dominion score, and then build up temples, which will increase the dominion score, and then increase our free spawn. The starting with a small amount gives us some time to make some money. This is a nation that really does need to get at least that level 1 fort. So that's 1,000 gold and then 600 for our temple. So 1,600 per province, ideally. And given enough time, we'd like a level 1 fort and a temple everywhere. And then a place like this throne, I probably would go all the way up to castles, just to make sure I am fully protected in there. As stated in the beginning, we start with a fortified city, not a castle. Just another food for thought there. Who would I make my prophet? I would summon in one of the acolyte, no, not acolyte. What's your name? Archbishop of Elder Gates. He comes in as Holy 3, and that we can make a Holy 4. That does matter. We do have a Holy 4 spell as a national spell. I think it's definitely worthwhile doing. And if you don't want to use him for that at the beginning, he does double the amount of lictors he can free spawn in to up 2 per turn. So I do think that is worthwhile there. As for national items, we have one national item. Where are you? Right here. Hard to see. It is the Black Laurel. This is a construction 3 item. It costs 2 death magic and a cost of 10 gems to be able to craft. However, it gives us a lictor summoning, not reanimating, summoning bonus of 3. So any of our lictor summoning spells will get an additional 3 to it. Very, very worthwhile to get a few of these out as your death gems increase and you ramp up your lictor production. Definitely worth it. I would say you probably want to rush construction 3. They're that good. Lictors are by far, maybe you could argue the Knights of the Unholy Sepulchre are pretty good too, but we can summon in lictors. We can't summon in knights. Very, very nice there. If we take that same guy and we go to Forge, under helmets, lesser here. Other things to note, Skull Mentors are probably too pricey for us. For the cost of 10 death gems, we could have another mage. The mage would have less research than this, but it would be an additional mage. So if we get in trouble, an additional mage can go cast a spell, a Skull Mentor cannot. Maybe somebody can convince me otherwise, but I think I would rather have mages than skulls. Maybe that's just me. Beyond that, we don't have a very good amount of things that we can make. We have fire 1s, so we could do like Maces of Eruption. Beyond that, we don't have a ton of things we could actually make. Yeah, we just really don't. Amulet of the Dead I mentioned earlier. Divine Reanimation bonus 2, Ritual Reanimation bonus 2. Very, very nice there. I do need to do a little bit more testing to see if this can affect lictors. I don't think it will, but just food for thought. Another thing we might want to craft would be a Skull Staff, which gives Death Magic +1. So all of a sudden your Death 3s are 4s or your 2s are 3s. I do think this is worthwhile for a few guys to do combat, or if you needed that +1 for a certain ritual or summons or something. In addition, the Skull Face at very powerful, so Construction 7, also gives Death Magic. So you can give yourself an additional +1 there. For our national spells, we actually have a decent amount. Starting in Conjuration, at Conjuration 0, so we start with every one of these. We have the Revive Lictor. This brings in 1 Lictor for 3 gems. Not the most efficient. If we put that Black Laurel on, however, we're getting 4 of them for 3 gems. I don't think I would use this, maybe once or twice if you want like some god bodyguards or something, until I have the laurels. I just don't think that it's efficient enough. Next, we have the Revive Censor. For 4 gems, we can get the Censor Commander. For 10, we can get the Acolyte, who is a priest level 1. For 16, we can get a Bishop. For 23, we can get an Archbishop. I don't think I like the priest level 2s. I think I want the priest level 3s if I'm going to do it. And the cost difference is only 7. I think I want the holy 3s. For 12 gems, we could get a Spectre. That is our Death 2 Mage. And for 20, we could get a Dusk Elder. So quite a smattering here. Remember, we start with 9 death income. And we start with a Spectre. So he's going to have to summon everything else in. Notice something here. He has Death 2. An Archbishop is Death 3. A Dusk Elder is Death 3. So if you do not start with something that has Death 3, you're either going to have to empower or build a Skull Staff to be able to summon these guys in. So I feel like you're almost required to take Death 3, preferably awake, but or maybe dormant. Yeah, that's a bit of an oof there. I wish we started with 1 Dusk Elder instead of a Spectator for that reason. Beyond that, at level 2, we can revive Wailing Ladies. These are those very spooky ethereal ladies. At 3, we have Lictorian Guard. For 10 death gems, we can actually summon in 5. So 2 gems each, and remember we can put the Laurel on and you'll get 3 more. Pretty efficient there. So you can have less mages and get more lictors out. Definitely something you want to consider if you're going to get into that. And of course, as every nation does, we have Pride of Lions. If you have nature gems, you can summon lions. Why? Oh, why not? What do you got against lions? So that's a thing. Up on Conjuration 5, we have Lamentation. 25 death gems, Death 3 caster. This summons in 5 Wailing Ladies for 25 gems. I just don't see those being worth 5 gems a pop. I just don't. So I'm iffy on that one. At Conjuration 7, we have the Great Lamentation. This is 14 Wailing Ladies for 33 gems. I'm a little less iffy on this one. I mean, at least that's just over 2 gems each. Maybe if I was that far, I'd consider it. At Conjuration 8, we have Lictorian Legion. For 35 death gems, we get 25 lictors. Does require Death 4 to do. Again, we're just freeing up mage turns and being a little bit more efficient here. I like those. Those are fine. Before we move on from Conjuration, I do want to call out some of the other death stuff is still good. You don't have to just use your national spells. For example, Shades. Shades can be very hard for people to deal with if they don't have magic weapons. Dark Knowledge for sight searching can be useful. I don't know if I would go whites, but Banes, or more preferably the Bane Lord, might be somebody you consider. Bane Lords can lead. You could also thug them out. They also have cold auras, which would fit in well with what we're doing. Ghost Grip is a pretty decent spell that all of our mages could also do. 10 fatigue, we get 5 effects, and I believe it is, I think this is magic save. No, heavy armor reduces the effect, but you can just give people 25 plus fatigue, and you have 5 effects. So for 10 of your own fatigue, you could hit 5 people for possibly 25. It does have the plus, so that'll be increased for higher death casters. Can actually be pretty decent, especially people with like high natural protection and not heavy armor. I think that is how that one works. Can be kind of interesting. We could do Corpse Candle. I'm not in love with that spell. Ghosts, of course. Specters, I think our summons are more efficient than those, so I don't think we touch those. This is a nation that maybe you would want to consider Tartarin Gate, depending on what your god can do. Do remember you would need to take, you'd have to A, build them a shroud, and B, you would have to get them mending bones to be able to cure them. But if you did, could be something useful there. Also from Conjuration, Well of Misery. Well of Misery gives you 21 death gems per turn. It increases worldwide growth by +2, growth by 5 wherever you cast it. That's not going to save you from your own death because it's Dominion scales that are doing it. However, 21 death gems a month is pretty juicy. And if you're playing in multiplayer, at least you could try to argue with other people that, hey, I'm giving you extra growth scales, you should totally leave me alone. People probably won't listen to you, but you could still try to sell it. From Alteration, I think it should be noted, Stygian Skin, if your mage does random into water for some invulnerability. Invulnerability itself is pretty good. Soul Vortex could be pretty good. We generally don't need Skeletal Legion, but our lictors aren't skeletons, so maybe you give them that extra defense. Utter Dark is another one. We like spells that screw the world because we're not going to have population and income anyways. So plunging the world into total darkness, so everyone has to fight in the dark, we already can. Could be pretty good. In addition, it just screws up their income and resources ridiculously. Yeah, and darkness too at level 6. Another really good one there. In Evocation, I do feel Ermor likes death evocations. Even if you just go to 3 so you get Shadow Bolt, that gives your basic spectators something to do. This is a pretty decent spell. 7 plus damage, armor negating. They resist for half, so you're guaranteed to at least do some damage, and you can hit them with paralysis. Dusk Elders can do Banefire darts or Banefire itself. Bolt of Unlife. Shadow Blast is another really, really good one. It is 100 fatigue, but if you had, let's say, 5 of your mages, and they each had 1 gem, and they each cast this at the beginning of combat, that's a lot of AoE 9 armor negating paralysis that could go out. Pretty good spell. It's very painful to have to feed that gem in there when you want to be summoning other things, but I think the power level here is good enough. Blast of Unlife is another one you don't generally see on most nations. Things that die to this spell come back as soulless. Just good for just messing up the enemy. I don't know how much I love this spell, but it's something. Depending on your Pretender design, Cloud of Death, Winds of Death, these won't affect anybody we have because we're all already dead. So you could even consider making your god to just come in and do Winds of Death and just have him support one army really, really strongly. In construction, as mentioned, 3 for the Laurel, which is our national item, 5 for the Skull Staff and other boosters, Amulet of the Dead, could be pretty good. In Enchant, Revive King, I actually needed to go here because I needed to get that king to help move troops around. I just didn't get any free spawn commanders. Beyond that, I don't know if you use many of these. You do have another national spell at 6 or more in Legion. This is 15 gems and it gives us 50 of the Legionaries. I believe these are the spear-wielding ones. So maybe. I don't think fodder is something once you get rolling, you're ever going to run out of, though. I think those 15 gems would do better going into a mage or a priest. Rigor Mortis, a great spell. We're all undead, so we don't have to worry about the fatigue from this. You would love to get this spell up and screwing over the enemy. I suppose Ritual Rebirth, we're actually a nation who can cast this. This actually lets you bring back heroes from the Hall of Fame, and you bring them back as mummies. So pretty cool. Great for just taunting people in multiplayer, etc., etc. You could get some really cool things depending on what's died and if you've been paying attention. It is random from that pool, but could be something decent. Fields of the Dead, things that die on the battlefield just get right back up as undead you control. Pretty interesting. I've never actually seen this cast. Thaumaturgy, I do want to call out Terror. This is a range, pretty good AoE, minus morale from Fear. Can be pretty nice. We could spam this pretty effectively. Doubly so if you decided to go Fear on your Bless. So Fear, then we could pound a little bit more in with this and really spook people away. Leprosy. We can target a province and disease our enemies. Foul Air. Worldwide Unrest. We don't care about Unrest because everyone's going to die anyways. So you could pop this up if you went with that Air Pretender and just start building up Unrest worldwide. We'd love that. Burden of Time. This is a nasty one. This is like the Ermor special. Worldwide population, just -2 pop kill. Worldwide Unrest. Sure. Death scales in the entire world. Sure. And the aging for all units is greatly increased. And it is like greatly. Like I want to say it's like 4 to 10 times as fast. So a lot of nations that have those mages that recruit already on the edge are going to absolutely hate you. Everyone will just die once you get Burden of Time up. Unless you happen to be undead. Fancy that. So very, very cool there. Also, Leeching Darkness is another one I should call out. This leaves a lingering cloud that we're immune to because we are undead. It will hit anyone in the cloud, and I believe it tries to heal the guy who cast it. It's been a hot minute since I've actually got this off, but clouds are nice because we can swamp people with undead and hold them in place, and then drop the cloud on top of them to die. In addition to our other national spells, because we are undead priests, we have a whole slew of different priest spells. Now, there's actually only 3 here, and they just repeat in different sizes, I believe. So, well, no, I guess we have 4. Starting at priest level 1, we have Unholy Command. This is an Enslave. It's armor negating, magic resist negates easily, and it only hits undead. But we can hit other undead with this and force them to join us. I believe, yeah, if we hit an enemy commander, I believe they lose command stats and just become a unit. We have Unholy Protection. This gives us a little extra magic resistance when we cast it. We have Unholy Blessing. This is how you bless troops. And we have Unholy Power. This gives us extra speed and attack skill. So that's combat speed. Do remember combat speed is how far you can move, but it also affects how soon into the round you attack. So high speed units will attack at the beginning of the round. Slow speed units will attack later in the round. So getting off the first hit is always nice. You prefer to swing first rather than second. So a good buff there. And then as we go up, we just have bigger versions. So bigger protection, bigger blessing, bigger power. The full battlefield blessing. This is the full battlefield magic resist. Do note this is magic resistance easily negates. That counts for your own troops. So you need to spam this a few times because what you want is you want your own troops to fail their magic resist to get the bonus magic resistance. It's kind of counterintuitive. And Power of the Sepulchre is the entire battlefield gets the extra combat speed and attack skill. This is why that Holy 4 is so valuable to us. This is for your main army, just to make sure that everybody is fighting at 110%. Very, very useful spell to have. Okay, so let's bring all of that together. Ermor is a very strong pop kill nation. It is a pop kill nation that doesn't recruit anything, however, still needs some gold to be able to build its forts and temples. You are going to want to scramble as fast as possible to at least get yourself a core territory. And then, hopefully, you're going to out-expand your own dominion and get a few turns at least of some nice, juicy, high-income forts elsewhere so you can fund even more forts and temples. Temples give us death gems. That is something only a couple nations get. Very vital to us because we are going to be summoning in all of our command, all of our priests, all of our mages. we take a look here to bring back all those spells we talked about. Look at this. These are so important. Dusk Elders, Specters. These are our 2 mage choices. We need these. We need these death gems. Archbishops. We need these. This is very, very important for us to have, because if we don't have that death income, Long Dead are not going to win a game. Other people already are going to have your number and want to get rid of you ASAP. You got to be ready for that. Bonus tip, our buddy Distill Gold, because I have +1 fire gem. I was using that this game. So a way you can get gold once the world is dead is change fire or earth gems into gold. Hot tip there for you. Pretenders and blesses. I mean, this is going to be a little bit of a weird one. I'm going to start in my test game because I want to show off one. Somebody recently mentioned to me, do I ever use the Trinities? And I never really have, but I found this one, the Titan of the Crossroads. I never actually realized she was a Trinity. I didn't purposely pick her for that reason, but she is. And it's very interesting on Ermor. So Trinity gods, for those who don't know, split their pathing up differently. So they all have different amounts of the points I paid for. In addition, if they're not in the same province, they have reduced paths. Specifically for the Titan of the Crossroads, I find one thing super interesting on her. On this chassis here specifically, the one who's holding the key and the dagger, she actually has an ability called Unify. This order will call the other parts of the Trinity and make them appear here. So you could have her teleport. Note she got some of her astral somewhere else and then call the other ones to her. Or she could walk somewhere and call the other ones to her. In addition, this part of the chassis, this is the main piece, has some free spawn in every battle. They're kind of whatever. She also has Stygian Guide. Stygian Guide makes it so that we can use Stygian Gate safely. Stygian Gate is like Gateway, but it is even better. Stygian Pass right here. So you need 5 death, 15 death gems. This will let us teleport. And I believe you teleport with the army that you are commanding. So, you have to take a 1 armor negating damage plus death MR attack. So that is really, really nasty. However, she has that Stygian Path Guide, which makes it much, much safer to actually use that. So I thought that was really interesting. In addition, because you get 3 bodies, even though they have Inept Researcher 10, they each have a reasonable magic research ability. So with the 3 of them in this game, I started off with 45 research instead of 12. Do note I have magic 3 scales on her. So 12 versus, what would that be? 45, 57. I started with 57 magic research instead of 12. That is quite significant. And remember, we have to pay for our mages via death gems. So our research is going to be garbage normally. So I do give major brownie points to her for that. Let's hop out into the designer and we can look at her a little more traditionally. So this is the Keeper of the Crossroads. I built this one that we just looked at as Death 4, Nature 3, and I didn't give her any astral. That can be a bit of a pain. I believe for Trinities, they all count as having the maximum number of astral paths. Why that is important is for magic duels. The ones I was showing there would die horrifically to magic duel spawn, so keep that in mind. For the blessing on her, I took Reforming Flesh and Poison Weapons. I did that mainly to be cheap so I could be awake. I actually did not really like that bless. The Poison Weapons, the lictors hit too hard. You hardly ever poison anybody. And ditto with the Knights of the Unholy Sepulchre. They killed people generally with their lance, and I never really saw too much poison proccing. The Reforming Flesh I did like. I did think that was pretty decent. Let's actually go in and look at her as a normal chassis. For her, right here, 350 points. That's one of the things that holds her back. She comes in with an increase of magic scales, and Astral, Death, and Nature. If I was going to play her, and I'm very tempted by this, I would want to be awake, so we're going to go... We don't need any production. We don't need any order. We're going to go cold because we have cold auras on some of our units, and we're going to go maximum death scales, so we're going down to 4. I think I would rather go with some extra astral and some extra death. So we need death 6 to get reforming flesh, and with astral, I actually think we want magic weapons. So astral 5. That would just make me feel a lot better that we have some access, because nothing we have, at least nothing troop-wise, has magic weapons. And then with the extra 2 that we would need to pay for that, because it's 60 for a new path, I think I would just pay for that with a little extra nature, because that's so cheap. We go from 60 to 36. If I was to do it over here, we'd be in the negatives. So I would probably go something like this. 36 points left. 5 Dominion? Yeah, that's not too bad. This is okay. In fact, I think this is so okay. I'm going to save this. Maybe I'll rename these, maybe I won't. So you actually have to name all 3 chassis, interestingly enough. Okay, otherwise, let's look at some other chassis, though. We have Emperor Bones, the classic Demi-Lich. You know him, you love him, you hate him. He's here again. This boyo is Dormant. Now, I do actually think we can get away with Dormant. We are just going to flood the world with Long Dead, so I don't think we need our Sacreds to get going. Do note, though, that means you have no way of summoning in your better mage or your high-end priest, because the highest we have is a death 2 at the beginning of the game. However, this is a much, much nastier bless. Blood Vengeance. This is nice for just sprinkling your Sacreds around, so as people banish you, sooner or later they're going to hit one of your Sacreds and explode from the Blood Vengeance proc. Reforming Flesh, I do think that's good on Ermor. Our Lictors are pretty tough, as is our Knights. They're good enough. Vitriol Weapons was nice because I wanted to get some fire anyways, so that was part of the cost here. And this will help us break heavy, heavy armor like Ermor and have a chance to have the Long Dead assist us in combat. In addition, this guy has fire resistance. That is because fire shields is a known way of countering Long Dead. So a lot of humans will probably look at either fire shields or fire elementals to kill you. And this would give you an answer. You could have your lictors out front to tank the fire elementals and take them out for you. I liked him quite a bit. Blood is going to be a little redundant because we're going to lose all of our pop. So we're basically only getting that for Blood Vengeance, unfortunately. Next, we have Scathia. Very similar to that. This is where I first tried the poison weapons. Again, just trying to make it as cheap as possible. I had to take her dormant. Again, I just couldn't afford this much bless and be awake. I'd already tanked my scales. But Reforming Flesh, poison weapons, Blood Vengeance. Playable, I think, but not the best. Not the best. Her poison aura doesn't matter. Most of our things are immune to poison, so that's at least something for you. But note, she is cold-blooded, so she's going to suffer in our cold domain. I didn't end up liking her. Hence why we were checking out Keeper of the Crossroads and or Hecate. I like this quite a bit. I'm very, very tempted by not only playing a Trinity, but she solves several problems for us. Mobility, we can use Stygian Paths, or Gateway on this one. Magic weapons, gotcha. A little bit of survivability for our Sacreds, gotcha. So pretty darn good here. Five Dominions, plenty strong. That's better than the test game I was just showing off. 3 magic also means that your mages that you summon research at least 1 point per gem cost. Otherwise, you spend more gems than you get in research per turn. So kind of sort of looking at it like we normally look at gold upkeep. So I like that quite a bit. There is an argument to be made. If you went Drain 2, you would free yourself up 80 points, and Drain 2 would mean you get +1 magic resistance in your domain, which makes it harder for other people to banish you. So I do think there is definitely a Drain Ermor that you could play. However, do remember, lots of turmoil, possibly misfortune, and Drain. You might get events that take away all your gems. And once you're out of gold economy, gems are your only economy. So that makes me incredibly nervous. I think it's grain 2, and I don't know what the second scale is, but there's an event that you literally lose all your gems. So that just seems brutal to me. Absolutely brutal. And this chassis brings in 3 Titans, all of which have some form of magic weapons that are decent to okay. And, throw a piece of armor on them and maybe a fear helmet. They could at least be decent battle mage / battle thugs for you. I quite like them as a chassis. I'm really curious what other people like for their blesses. I do think you could cheap out and maybe not take reforming flesh and instead go into like mending bones and long game yourself into Tartarans possibly. So if we were to look here, you'd want to be going death if you're going to go that route, and you probably want to go maybe death water to guarantee. I think, what is the shroud? Is it astral or water astral? You'd probably want to guarantee you could craft the shrouds either way, because it would make me very nervous relying on summoned random mage pathing to do it. But something like the Demi-Lich, you could do that really cheap on. I don't think we want awake dudes, but if you do take one, make sure you take somebody who isn't going to have problems like cold-blooded or things like that. This guy could do some reanimation, I suppose. He's a very cool chassis that I just don't think is good enough. His 5 protection, just not cutting it. We also have gray ones. This is another Trinity. I have heard, although I have not tested it, they have age problems. They are 2,475 years old out of 2,000. And I've heard that with Burden of Time up, you actually can kill your own god of old age. As funny as that would be, that makes me a little bit nervous. Note they're not undead. And ditto with a lot of these other people. They're not undead. And that just makes me very nervous. Like rigor mortis, leprosy, disease stuff. That just seems like a bad plan to me. Draco Lich could be a cool one if you did want to go like Awake Expander. A Draco Lich with, in fact, here, let's just build him. We're going to grab him. We're going to flop. I don't know why that's the case. We're going to go Death 3. We're going to go Cold. I think we still go there. Now, remember, you have HP based on the number of candles, so we do need some candles. And we're going to go pretty high death. For his chassis, what's he have? 9 protection, but he's invulnerable. Okay. Invulnerability 20 is not the best, so you are definitely going to have to be doing like Plague Breath shenanigans. He can shapeshift into a Lich, so that's okay. So, blessing-wise, I think for him, we're going to go Reforming Flesh and Mending Bones. That way he can cure his own afflictions, which he will almost certainly get. Yeah, especially with only invulnerability 20. Do note that the invulnerability spell is invulnerability 25. That would be an upgrade, but that is what? Alteration 5 or 6. So not something you would have in early expansion. And do note, I mean, we got a lot of design points left. We could totally go something else. Why am I able to do order 3 here? This guy's acting like he has an order scale on him. I wonder if that's a bug. Because this should be Turmoil 2, because his only scale is an extra death limit, which we are already at. I'm not sure what that's doing, but something like this, we still have tons of points left. We could maybe go up to Blood Vengeance. That'd make him pretty nasty to get rid of. What else could we do? We could give him Glamour stuff to buff himself. We could Temper Flesh if we gave him some Earth. We could Liquid Body if we gave him there. We could go with some of that air that we talked about. Open up those paths. So I do think this is a valid build. I'd have to see what's going on with these scales, though. Beyond that, I'm not too in love with many of these. Raven of the Underworld is a Corpse Eater, I believe. Dark Power. So if you were going to go with Unterdark or Utter Dark, that could be pretty cool. Are you not a Corpse Eater? I thought you were. Fortune Teller, Disease Resistant. Yeah, Corpse Eater 15. We can have an extra 100 HP if we sit around and eat corpses. So I do think that could be kind of interesting. I don't know exactly what you do with this guy. Protection 10, that makes me exceedingly nervous. So yeah, but food for thought, food for thought. Okay, so in conclusion, Middle Age Ermor, the boogeyman in the age. Very, very fun nation. It plays so differently because we're summoning in and not recruiting anything. I like that quite a bit. They are really strong on theme. They are a very impactful nation from the lore. Interesting builds because we're taking blesses for undead. We have some Freespawn Sacreds, which is cool. Overall, very unique nation. Very, very fun to play. Do note, everyone in multiplayer, no matter what you say, no matter how you try to sweeten the deal, everyone wants to kill you before you kill off the population. So you are rush target number one. If somehow you manage to get past that, though, what a fun nation to play. In single player, we don't have to worry about that, so we will just bring the eternal darkness to the world. It should be a good one. Okay, builders, if you've enjoyed this one, make sure you come and check out the stream. I always do an accompanying stream with these pregame videos. And if you've enjoyed this one and would like to see videos early, you can join the channel with a membership. I try to have the pregame video up an entire week early for members, along with other various videos that go up as member first. Beyond that, if you enjoyed this one, don't forget to leave a like on it. And if you're not, I hope that this is the video that I earned your subscription on. Either way, I hope to see you on stream, and I will catch you in the next one, builder. Get out there and build a Skeletal Legion.